The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
We are pleased to welcome a first-time guest, one of the top leadership Republican senators for Pennsylvania, our very own Senator Lisa Baker, who represents the 20th Senatorial District and is serving in her 5th term, in a district which includes substantial parts of Luzerne County, Wayne County, and all of Pike, Susquehanna, and Wyoming counties. I've teased Lisa that she has almost a congressional district. She is part of, as I already said, top leadership in the Republican Senate, serving as the Majority Caucus Administrator. Among her most important committees is Majority Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, as well as Vice Chairman of Aging and Youth Committees. It's because of this experience that she's gained from the Judiciary Committee, as well as the Committee on Youth, that accounts for her unique perspective on the recent horrible pardon granted by President Biden to former disgraced Luzerne County Judge Michael Conahan, as Biden commuted Conahan's 17-year sentence for his bad role in the Kids for Cash travesty. Lisa, by the way, we will discuss that on today's show. Lisa is also, importantly, an inductee of the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veterans Affairs Hall of Fame. She has distinguished herself as a strong proponent of Veterans Affairs, having also received the Silver Distinguished Citizens Medal from the Marine Corps League of Pennsylvania, as well as the Outstanding Service Award from the Pennsylvania War Veterans Council. Lisa is a graduate of Dallas Area High School and received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Government Administration from Shippensburg University. Because of her unique position in leadership in the Pennsylvania Senate, we look forward to talking to her today, not only about the Conahan commutation, but also what we can expect from the participation in working with Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro and what grounds for compromise that he's going to have to make with Lisa and her colleagues in the Republican Senate. We think you'll find today's show interesting, especially since in about a week or so, the governor will be announcing his budget address in Harrisburg. We hope you enjoy today's show.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial. The area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Senator, welcome to the Volpe Report.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. And Liz, we talked a little bit off air. I've even mentioned on a couple different occasions, thinking we were going to do a show with you, as we've been talking about, and it didn't come to pass, that, you know, I feel I'm thrilled and honored to have you, because we've been talking about you coming on my show for about 3 years now, and we are finally getting it done. So thanks for making time. And I think it appropriate that you are a very unique guest. In fact, I'm going to say in my lifetime on this planet, 65 years now, I've never met anybody that has ancestors that go all the way back to William Penn and the first Americans that came to the continent. And in William Penn's case, our state's namesake, Pennsylvania, was, of course, he became the governor of Pennsylvania, and then the state took his name. And they added Sylvania to Penn. But your ancestors, being Quakers, came over. I don't remember the ship, you can tell us that, but came over effectively with William Penn. That's pretty rare air.
They did. So my dad was a practicing Quaker, and his uncle went through, or his brother actually went through and looked at all the data in the Quaker meetings and all the documentation. Wow. So we are descendants of the Buckman family, who were on the Welcome with William Penn.
Being the ship, the Welcome was the name of the ship.
And the matriarch of the family died on the way over and was buried at sea. So William Buckman and his family, as the history tells us, lived in a cave along the Delaware when they first arrived in 1682. He was a carpenter.
Wow.
And so delighted that my dad's brother, really long before Ancestry.com found that. So we can take it back to double grandmothers and
Wow.
the lines
Pretty
of the
neat.
family, which, when you think about the history of Pennsylvania, the Senate chamber, just the magnificent Quaker heritage is
course.
all around me every day.
course.
And so when I say lifelong Pennsylvanian,
Yeah.
I mean it.
No kidding. We're coming up on 400 years. Amazing. And I have to ask, just morbid curiosity, in a moment of pique or anger, which will happen in deliberative bodies when you're arguing with your fellow senators on issues, do you ever bring out that trump card? Hey, my family knew William Penn and came over with him, and that would be a kind of a conversation difficult to come back to that.
Actually, I did the opening day of prayer for Senate session this year on swearing-in day, and went to silent prayer, silent reflection, which is tradition of the Quakers because they believed in a direct inner light with their God. So yes, I do on occasion bring it out and showcase it when I'm showing people the Senate floor and all the beautiful murals that Violet Oakley, Quaker from Philadelphia, put and designed throughout the Capitol.
Wow, great story. As I said,
Thank you.
12 years now of this show, and well over between 500 and 600 shows and all those guests. And, it's rare I get cover somebody or interview somebody that we get into ground that's, worthy of pause. So
Thank you.
Wonderful story.
Thank you.
So now let's talk about a couple of things. I think we have to take a moment to reflect. The swearing in just happened, and on his way out the door, President Biden, in something historic, by the way, effectively granted not just pardons, which he's already done and I want to talk to you about, but granted preemptive pardons, and effectively preemptively pardoned pretty much anybody that might, including the rest of his family, first cousins and brothers and wives, and so you have that issue. Right up here, though, he touched, believe it or not, a case that is a nerve for a lot of people, as it should be. He commuted the sentence of Judge Michael Conahan, who was sentenced in the Kids for Cash travesty that took place. But you were outspoken on that. You were not involved in the case, but as an elected official involved and watched it. I like your comments because, again, you were pretty outspoken condemning that commutation. Speak to it.
History will not be kind to Joe Biden for what he's done, both with his own son and with Michael Conahan. When you think about clemency for that case, it's an outrage for all of the victims, all of the people who were involved. We spent the last 15 years putting safeguards in place in our juvenile justice system because of what happened. And the idea that you would commute that sentence, and granted, I know he's been out in his home because of COVID. That was a decision of the Department of Corrections or the Federal Bureau of Corrections. But when you take that step of granting clemency to an individual like that, and I think of the families that I have met with and talked to, it was just an absolute outrage. And I think history will not be kind to him. People here can't believe that that was the person he decided deserved that.
Yeah.
How does that happen? And the fact that the city of Scranton has named the expressway for him, I would say prematurely. Personally, I don't think public officials should have anything named for them until they're out of office.
Right. Until you get to see what travesties and heinous acts of corruption they will still commit. It's safer when they're out of office because they've done their public service, and if meritorious and honorable, then you want to have it done. But no, we tripped over ourselves here to rush to judgment with him early on, to your point. We have an expressway, Spruce Street. Businesses were almost universally against it on the whole 3 blocks of the main part of Spruce Street. They have literally years and decades of familiarity with the address and all their shipping labels and all their...
Sure.
So at any rate, but now, as you're aware, not only down in Luzerne County, Lisa, and in your senatorial district, But all the way up to Scranton, the outrage in Scranton, the demonstrations, the speaking at the commissioners' meeting, public commentary, a movement has developed. And our mayor of Scranton, Paige Gebhardt-Cognetti, endorsing Biden and endorsing the name staying, along with a majority of Scranton City Council, have decided to continue the name. But all things in life, they say, what's that famous line? And this too shall pass. This too shall pass. I don't think it'll be long into the future. We will get new administrations, we'll get new elected officials, and we'll get a better perspective. They should keep the old stuff on standby, just my view. But
I would agree with you, and we're actually looking into, it's a 4-digit road that the state of Pennsylvania has oversight over, and so we're looking in to see whether or not legislation at the state level could possibly change that. Initially, I wasn't sure about that, and so I think it's appropriate. I don't think he's deserving, and honestly, if they made the decision prematurely, they certainly made the decision prematurely.
Right. Well, that actually presents us a nice little segue, because you're talking about what you're going to do as a senator and what you're going to do in a Republican Senate where you have the majority and you can pass that legislation. Well, that brings up the issue, though, because the segue I'm referring to is at some point, if that legislation happens, that'll find its way to become law to the governor's desk. We're talking about Governor Josh Shapiro, who only signed in his first full year in office 13 bills into law, which for our viewers, and if those keeping score at home, is the lowest number of bills ever signed by a governor of Pennsylvania in this long, original 13 colony state's history. And he's going to be under pressure to get some stuff done now because he wants to obviously win re-election. And more importantly, it's all but it's certain he's going to run for president. Well, you can't run for president if you couldn't get anything done in your own state, obviously. So before we get into your answers to that, we'll give you a moment to think about it, and we'll take a quick break. We're here today with Republican Pennsylvania Senator Lisa Baker, a good friend. I'm proud to say I'm a supporter of hers. She's doing great work for the folks in Luzerne County, and which, of course, is in the heart of our media market here on Fox for the Volpe Report. So it's taken way too long to get her here, but now that we have her, we're going to let her now, carry the heavy loads after the break, talking about some of her agenda items for legislation and the role of a Democratic governor who wants to be seen as moderate now. Because we know the far left and progressive, that part of that has metastasized in the Democratic Party, they don't know it yet, but it's over, it's dead. They're like the chickens that had their heads cut off. They're still running around, but they're dead, and they will eventually keel over. We're going to see a Democratic Party that has to solve its own civil war and make a choice. Far left radical progressivism, or back to the middle where most of America is and wants the Democratic Party to be. With that said, we'll be back in a minute.
There are more places you can see the Volpe Report. Watch every Sunday morning at 10:30 on Fox 56 or watch on YouTube at the Volpe Report. More ways to watch. Still the same premier political talk show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians.
Welcome back. Again, we're here with Republican Pennsylvania Senator Lisa Baker. And Lisa, let's talk now about your legislative priorities in the Republican. You're in the majority in the Senate. Mm-hmm.
Republican majority, we obviously are looking at the things that are important that we hear from constituents about. Good jobs. We want permit reform. We're looking at protecting and safeguarding our communities, things that we can do to ensure that people are safe in their homes. And we're looking at healthy communities as well. So energy independence, permit reform. So many of these issues coming up in the session will be important to the bottom line. People are hurting. Pennsylvanians are seeing inflation and the impact to their checkbooks, to their kitchen table. They are looking for us to make change at the state level, just as they're hoping will happen at the federal level.
Well, I'm a firm believer, Lisa, in that you have to look at contextual circumstances. It's not just, I, as a golfer, not particularly good one, by the way, but I've often had debates with my friends about, because I'm older now, like what's warm enough to play golf. And what I'm referring to is that if it's 52 degrees, that's a little chilly out. But if the sun is out, that can make the difference. Like sun is out, now it feels like 65 or 70. If it's usually gray, as it often is up here, and the wind's blowing, it feels like 46. Well, then don't call me. My old joints don't do that. Well, people are saying, well, what the heck does that have to do with this? Well, here's what it has to do with this. Looking at that with that analogy, you are in a different environment now that impacts Pennsylvania. You knew whatever you did and whatever a governor signed and whatever potential regulatory reform you wanted to do, you had hanging over your head in Washington like the sword of Damocles to come down and chop your neck off of administration, the Biden administration, and what was going on in the Democratic-led U.S. Senate, and for a while the U.S. House. You couldn't do a thing because the Interstate Commerce Clause, back to the Constitution, permeates so many various avenues that you would deal with as a state because it impacts. For example, you export oil and gas and natural gas from Pennsylvania. We're an oil exporter, a natural gas exporter. Once it crosses a state line, there's federal jurisdiction. So that gets back to, and then they're not allowing it. They're not allowing. They're cutting down. They're disincentivizing banks and investment banking firms to invest in fossil fuel. But that was then. That was until November 5th. Now you operate in a Senate, Lisa, where the sun is out. It feels 10 degrees warmer because now you have a federal government and a president and a united Congress. I'm quoting his inaugural, drill, baby, drill. They're going to strip away regulations. He's put people in charge in some of the areas you're talking about that their mission is to not only cut down the federal bureaucracy, but to cut down the onerous regulations that should help Pennsylvania. So do you see that as something that's going to play into, you have a much stronger hand now to play because the government is that wind pushing your sails instead of the headwind and the typhoon pushing you back. So,
well, if you look at, and you mentioned Reggie and the
Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative for our audience.
And the fact that the governor has appealed that, and that is a tax on energy consumers here in Pennsylvania.
Of course.
Without question. The court has ruled that. We believe that. But if you look at northeastern Pennsylvania, my senatorial district, we have some of the most robust natural gas reserves in the Commonwealth. And there isn't one rig currently in Susquehanna or Wyoming County by Coterra Energy right today. And so when you think about
what a waste.
Looking at the need, the demand, the cold snap, all of that, you look at PJM and where we generate the energy from. It is natural gas, coal-fired plants, and nuclear. The renewables are there, but certainly the demand we're seeing right now, we need that robust use of natural gas. And so in order to do that, we're going to need pipeline infrastructure. And all of it, we say, do it appropriately. We understand to protect the environment and do it without impacting our water and our neighbors' public safety. But we need the ability to get that gas to market. And we see it coming with AI and back office operations, call centers, and data centers that are looking to locate here in northeastern Pennsylvania. They're going to need that infrastructure and they're going to need that resource from our natural gas.
Right. Well, great answer. And that again, in context now, helping you push this is a united federal government now. And on issues of national security, which our energy grid is dependent on. Our national security is depending on energy that isn't necessarily green and renewable. Because sometimes, God forbid, I know the climate existentialists don't want to hear it, sometimes the sun doesn't shine, and sometimes the wind doesn't blow, and then what are you going to do? So, no, we need our fossil fuel, we need oil, we need gas, we need natural gas. And what that could do for this state and the people living here, Lisa, as you're talking about, is a panacea of lower prices. It helps our president, it helps our United States government be an oil exporter instead of an oil importer. We were an exporter under President Trump. We were an importer under President Biden. I'm not sure there's anything more important we deal with. Democrats like to talk about existential that's an existential issue we have to deal with.
And you look at what the impact will be to all of our landowners in northeastern Pennsylvania who pay tax on that resource that's in their property. It's not the government's resource, it's the landowner's resource.
And back to the point you made very well, RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, is a tax. And it's being, instead of getting the benefit of lower everything because we are such a powerful, second only to Texas in terms of what we have the capability of doing. I won't even mention California and New York because they won't allow anything to be done in their state. Governor Christie from New Jersey was on this show a couple years ago. He talked about tankers running through New Jersey into New York interstate with the big red star. They're shipping in gas from Russia. This is before the Ukraine war broke out. And really? And we have that issue in Pennsylvania, which gets back to our governor. He wants to be a national figure. He wants to win re-election for governor. He can't just say, oh, I'm protecting the office and I'm really a supporter of RGGI, or against RGGI. I'm a supporter of oil and natural gas. His feet are going to be put to the fire in a lot of things, Lisa.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And we will see, with his budget message, what his priorities are. At this point, we haven't gotten a glimpse of it yet, but interesting to watch.
And let me ask you about another issue. We've talked about, he pretty much reneged on the issue of school choice, which he campaigned on, and then blamed the Democratic House, by the way. And I know that your good friend, President Pro Tem Ken Ward, and your good friend, Majority Leader Joe Pittman, adjourned the Senate in protest, like right after that, and you were, of course, part of that. So, but that's how seriously they felt about what he did and what he had done, reneging once again. And he is completely, again, like a lot of Democrats, effectively pawned to the teachers' unions. In Pennsylvania, that's the PSEA. It's been proven by Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, and now President Trump all over the country, and Dave McCormick and others, that that's a losing message. Don't talk to parents about teachers' union. The teachers' union wants to put gender-affirming care to like third and fourth graders. They don't think parents should have the right in various issues. And of course, that's going to be something that I know you're a strong proponent of. Parental rights matters. And we have now a mandate from the American people and the Pennsylvania people on that very issue. So it'll be interesting to see if he keeps his loyalty to the PSEA, the Pennsylvania State Education Association, i.e. teachers' unions, or whether he supports the people of Pennsylvania and what's in their best, and parents.
And when you think about the initiative, it was a very modest amount of money. When you look at a $48 billion budget, $100 million to the lowest performing schools where kids are in failed systems. We have some good public schools here in northeastern Pennsylvania. We also have a lot of organizations utilizing EITC to help children. So the Educational Tax Credit Program. And high school students are using that for dual enrollment at our community college, at Penn College, and others. So it's not just talking about school choice with that program. It's looking at how do we help empower kids to do the best that they can do. Wouldn't it be great to graduate high school with enough credits for your first year of college? Or with a certificate, a micro certificate that you can go out and get a real job, utilizing EITC and all of these things. What we want is to have kids have the options and parents to have the options. What's the best place? What's the best way for them to learn? And as I mentioned, there are some good schools. I'm a graduate of Dallas High School. Every year, public school, they perform very, very well. So I think parents can make that choice based upon things, but you need to give them the options.
Of course, and you mentioned something that struck a nerve with me. I'm a product of that process. I'm going back almost 50 years now, a 1978 graduate. But in 1977, my senior year, they had a program for Scranton Prep and Bishop Hannon. I went to Bishop Hannon. And I was able to attend the University of Scranton. I got like 9 credits, good towards college, and it sufficed for my diploma degree in high school. So I took political science, I took history, as a senior in high school, was able to do that. I graduated college, I'm proud to say, in 3 years, but a big reason is I had almost a better part of a semester done before I got there because of this program you're talking about, with seniors being able to go to colleges to get credits to take care of your high school GED requirements, but also be able to go forward and count as college credits.
Just learned that Penn College has dual enrollment for students all around the state. They don't have to be local. They can do it using technology. And think about a kid who wants to be a plumber, a carpenter, getting in and having that ability to see if that's the career path you want. It's really transformative.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you out of here on this. Our time flew by, a half an hour, believe it or not. We got about a minute or two left, but I'd like at least a quick overview from you, Lisa. You're very tech savvy and you're involved in the Senate on tech-related technology issues. So, and you're talking to someone, I think it's worth showing my audience that I actually do have a 1990s flip phone I still get by with. Me and Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys. There's one or two others, I think, but beside that, so, I'll let you the microphone is yours, since I'm pretty sure I'll be as much as the audience. I'll need you to explain this to me. So explain some of the initiatives you're involved in.
So what we've been really looking very closely at is technology and protecting young people, especially with artificial intelligence and child pornography. The laws have not caught up. And so last session, one of the bills the governor did sign was a Tracy Pennycook bill that came out of the Senate Judiciary Committee to better define that, so that law enforcement could go after the bad actors using AI and child porn. So we're looking at the need to catch up in some cases with our statutory framework, and it's something that is going to continue to emerge, and something that I think we have to keep our eye on the ball to protect kids.
Well, that's fascinating, and I didn't know that. I'm glad he signed it, and I can say that our area is in good hands with you, Senator. So it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Believe it or not, we're out of time. Again, we're here today as we're winding down the show with Republican Senator from Pennsylvania, Lisa Baker. Lisa, what does your district cover?
So my district is the 5th largest in the Commonwealth.
Wow.
It's Luzerne County, Wyoming County, Susquehanna County, Wayne County, and Pike County.
Wow.
All are parts. So,
wow. So
100 and...
That almost sounds like a congressional district, just so you don't have quite Dan beat, because he goes all the way to Pottsville and all that, but pretty representative. And I now our audience knows exactly what a big geographic area. And the nice thing about it is you got metropolitan and urban into the the Wilkes-Barre area and the greater Hazleton area and all. What I don't think of Hazleton, but the part of Luzerne you do have, and then very rural dairy farms, farmers up in some of the other
natural
places.
gas development.
Oh my God!
Summer camps of beautiful Wayne and Pike County.
Of course. Well, again, we were here today with Republican Senator Lisa Baker. And your district number?
20.
The 20th district, and you heard how big it is and how many counties she covers. So it was a pleasure. We'll be back again next week. We'll see you then.